G'day guys, I'm Brendan and welcome to the Beginner's Beekeeping Journal. This is Beekeeping 101, what you need to start beekeeping. Okay guys, so I probably should have done this as the very first episode to this series, but as I've gone through and I've been doing this for a few months now, I've learned quite a bit and I'm up to 5 hives now. My 5th one rocked up last night and it's going in its new box later today, which is pretty exciting. But I wanted to go through and just go through the basics of what you need to start beekeeping. There's a lot of myths out there. There's a lot of you need this, you need that, you don't need this, you don't need that. But there's variances to all those rules as well, depending on you. So what I wanted to do was go through one by one and show you what the variances are and how they might affect you and see what you think at the end. Okay, so I thought I'd start with the hive today. Now there's several segments that make up the hive. You don't need them all to start off with. But the ones you will need is your baseboard. Baseboard is the bottom of your frame. It's where the bees come and go through the door, land, go into the hive. Now, with the baseboard, you can put it on the ground, but it's not recommended. That'll allow the moisture to get into the wood and will destroy the hives very quickly. So it's kind of important that you do put something underneath it. It can be sitting on, as simple as sitting on a couple of Besser bricks, or you can build up a frame for it. I've got frames for all my hives, but that may not suit you. The second part you're going to need for your hive is the brood box. So the brood box is where all your bees are actually going to live. You put your frames in there and the bees will fill out the frames with wax, the queen will lay the eggs in it and they'll start to grow the hive. So this is where all the magic happens. You can run 2 brood boxes. Once again, it's up to the individual. The next part you're going to need are the frames themselves. Now these can be either with foundation or without foundation. I do have an episode which I'll put a link to showing you how to embed the foundation if you want and wire. But it's up to you whether you want to go natural or use the foundation. So there's a couple of reasons why you may or may not want to use wire or foundation. In general, it takes the bees quite a bit of honey to create the wax used for all their brood and stores, etc. Using something like foundation, it gives them a base of something to work with. They've got the start to the comb there and they don't have to eat as much honey to create the wax to create the comb. So it's up to you whether you use it or not. A lot of people do like to go au naturel and just have the bees build it by themselves, but this can give you a bit of a quicker jump start on producing a strong colony and help the bees along a bit. Once you get into the honey production, there's another reason why you might want to or not use honey, and that's going to be based on how you want the honey. As far as wire goes, if you decide not to use foundation but you do want to use wire, the wire is really good at just strengthening the comb that the bees make. In summer, especially in Australia where I am, it gets very hot and the comb can actually sort of soften a little bit and make it all wavy, and the bees don't like that too much. They come from Europe, they're used to the cold weather. It's a little bit different down here. So the wire just helps strengthen that and gives them some support. Now, it's not as important when you first start because it's not going to be going on straight away. But once they start to fill out the colony and become a lot stronger, you're going to want a super. Now, you can put a queen excluder in between to stop the queen from moving up there, and this is where the honey production will happen. But this is explained in my Super Spectacular, which I released the other week, and I'll put a link to that up here as well. And the last part of the hive you're going to need is the lid. Now there's various different styles of lids. This is called a migratory lid. It's really basic and simple to use, and it's what I prefer to use. It's got vent ports both front and back. That allows the heat to escape if it gets too hot in there. It's nice and simple and just sits on top. So that's the main beehive covered. I'll now talk to you about some of the tools you might like to use. Okay, so tool number one that is pretty important is your smoker. With this, you'll spray a bit of smoke in the entrance to the hive to help calm the bees down. What it does actually makes them think there could be a fire around, and they get ready to start abandoning their hives. Because of that, they'll start consuming a little bit of honey ready for their journey in case they need it, and they're less likely to try and attack you because of it. So that's number one. Second tool you're going to need is a hive tool. There's a couple of different styles of these as well. This is an Australian model. It's got a blade down the front here, which you can use for getting in between the hives and breaking them apart to get the comb. And it's got what's called a J-hook down at the bottom here, which you can get underneath the frames and pry them up to get hold of them and pull them out. Probably the most important piece of equipment you're going to want is a veil. Now you can get full bee suits that have pants, top, and a veil all built in together, which I actually use now as well. You've probably seen in my previous videos that this is all I've been wearing with some jeans. I've now upgraded, and you're going to want some thick socks to wear as well, and probably some good boots. But a veil is the most important tool because you don't want to get stung on the face. And a good set of gloves. Once again, not everybody uses gloves. But if you don't know whether you're allergic to bees or not, or you just don't want to get stung on the hands because they can hurt, gloves are really good. Something like these leather gloves, I find are really good. They offer your hands a lot of protection, but the trade-off for that protection is you don't have the feeling there in your fingertips. Now you can use the nitrile gloves, which are like the latex gloves. They give you a lot more feeling, but the stings can get through a little bit. Probably won't be as deep, and it definitely is a good layer of protection, but it will give you that little bit more feeling so you can feel if you're going to crush any bees, which you try not to do, obviously. So in my time beekeeping, and from what I've had to use it and learn, that is really all you need to get started. Beekeeping can cost quite a bit to start out with, and not everyone has the budget to go out and buy all the expensive stuff. I think my smoker cost me about 30 bucks off eBay. My veil cost me about 20 bucks with the jacket. A hive tool was about 13 bucks. You know, it can be really cheap to start with. The hives themselves came flat pack if you've got a bit of DIY. I've actually got an episode coming up very shortly as well, showing you how to put the hive together. So that could be a really good cheap way to start, and it costs about 100 bucks for an empty hive that contains everything you see here, including the frames. There are optional extras such as a bee brush, which can be handy for removing bees from any frames, and there's little tools like this that came in a kit that can be used to pick up the frames and hold them up if you don't want to hold them up with your hands. But that's Beekeeping 101. I hope it's been informative. I hope it hasn't scared you off beekeeping, because it is great fun getting out there amongst the bees and knowing that you're helping their populations, as well as pollinating any of your plants and maybe even giving you a bit of honey. So guys, that's it for another week. I'll see you next week, and that's the buzz.